right, you guys? Podcast time.
Choose quieter.
Fucking podcasting right now.
Chew quieter.
And now, to the podcast studio.
Welcome back to Chew Quieter, everyone. My name is Gabe Mercado, and I have my co-host with me, Chris Meehan and Armando Verdugo. And today we have a special guest, Mr. Greg Henderson.
Hey.
How's it going?
It's good. No complaints. Just doing the normal stuff, working on Jeeps and trying to sell parts.
Yeah, so everyone knows Greg probably from the shows and being on trail as the guy that wears the kilt. So this is him, but he's wearing pants today, which is probably why you don't recognize him.
Yeah, I've got pants on, even though you can only see me from nipple up.
For people that have watched Kingdom Crawl, Greg was also the guy that had his brand new Roxor at Windrock with us.
Oh, and I got sand.
2.
I got sand deeply embedded inside of my veg, and had to let somebody else drive for a minute.
Yeah, we were up on Walden Ridge, and it was just a little sketch. We'll get into that in a little while.
Yeah.
But first, I want to bring up a few things. Got to give a shout out to our sponsors and say hi to them. LiftItForLess.com is your one-stop online marketplace for top quality parts and accessories for your Jeep, Bronco, or truck. Carrying many great brands like Rock Crawler Suspension, Savvy Offroad, and Rigid Industries, and many, many more. Also, our new sponsor, Rub One, revolutionizing the way you wash and protect your Jeep, truck, and side-by-side. Easy-to-use products designed to give your ride that perfect finish, whether you're hitting the streets or the trails. With optional low-pressure or high-pressure foam cannons, Rub One has you covered. Get yours now at rub-one.com.
Wow, you took all the freaking SEO out of that. Nice.
I'm going to buy it just because of the name.
But that's
It's
the whole
exactly
point.
why you have to buy it.
That's the whole point. Honey, I'm just going to go outside and rub one out, so I'll be back in about an hour. What do you mean an hour? It takes you 10 seconds.
Just had to have a good name.
Yes.
So back to what happened out at Walden's Ridge. I have a little clip of it if you want to see it, if you want to have a quick flashback.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
I'm not moving until you tell me to. Want me to need a bag? I want to get level. Level enough where I can puke. The clutch, yeah, is you ease out real gentle. Like, you don't really need to give it any gas. You just ease out real gentle. It'll start going. I mean, she's a torquey little bitch.
Driver change?
And if you give it gas, it's a torquey little. Okay. It'll launch. So,
all right, man. What are we doing?
So Greg is Greg's feeling just a little nervous with the rig that he hasn't wheeled.
Greg's feeling super nervous, really uncomfortable, and because I'm so nervous right now, I would rather somebody else drive it. Because I don't want to make a mistake because I'm so jittery right now. It's better safe than sorry.
Yeah.
So, yeah. It's the only time that's ever happened to me still. And, yeah, it was the right choice.
I was going to say, I've never seen you back out of doing something before.
No, so the entrance to that, and I don't know why, but it just beat me up. And we finally got to that little spot, and the nerves were so bad. I couldn't keep going. Somebody else had to drive. He only drove 110 feet, but that was the first time that's ever happened to me, and it hasn't happened since. But I had to make the right choice. I didn't want to do something stupid, and the crew that we were with was just a huge amount of amazing people, so it was really easy to let somebody else drive.
Yeah. I've had an experience.
I wasn't with you on that trail, but did you really throw up, or was that just a sensation that you had?
No, it was a sensation I had. I didn't actually throw up.
Okay.
Yeah.
I say that'd be the second time I've heard of someone throwing up from just fear of being on a trail like that. The first time I've heard of it was someone on Blackberry Pass.
Yeah, and the worst part, best part, we went back and did that again, and it didn't bother me at all. you know, and I've been on lots of trails. I've been on trails with very, very well-known people within our industry who own big shops who had the same problem, and I was the trail guide, and I had to drive their car off. You know, it happens to anybody, and it happens to the best of us, and it happens to the worst of us. So, you know, the best thing in the world is to always make the smart choice and do what's best for everybody around you and yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was filming an event, and going back to Black Bear Pass, it happened to quite a few drivers. There was quite a few first-timers actually ever touching dirt with their Jeeps.
Best place to go and do that.
Yeah, so we get to the steps, and everyone's freaking out. So the first guy was the guy leading the whole event. He couldn't do it. And I was like, I can drive this down if you want. I totally get it. I'll drive it down for you if you want. He's like, yes, please. So I drove it down to the switchback, hiked back up. Guy that's right behind him, hey, can you take mine down too? So I look at the event, the guy that's having the event. I'm like, listen, if I drive all these rigs down, you're not going to have any footage of this obstacle. He's like, it's all right. I'd rather have everyone safe. I was like, all right, fine. So I drove 2 other Jeeps down in the TRX.
Yep. Yeah, almost every year during Moab, Easter Jeep Safari, I always do a midnight run on Moab Rim. And almost every single year, I have to drive somebody down the crack or a couple other obstacles. And, you know, it's never an issue, right? You always have to help the person out. But for it to happen to me, it surprised me. And, you know, I still think I made the right choice. Even though really, if you look at how the Roxor was sitting, it was not in an unstable position. I was just mentally thrashed from the 5 minutes before that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I'm like, what are you getting now that looks like it's on flat ground? That's like it's nothing. But I understand what that's like.
You'd already gotten over, but at the same time as everything that's emotions and everything that's going on in your body, your body's just telling you, hey, you need to stop.
Right.
Yeah. And I guess it was extra nerve-wracking because that was the shakedown run for the Roxor, right? Yeah,
that was the shakedown run. That was the very first time it had ever touched dirt.
Wow. Do you still have it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's and it does surprisingly well. You know, like I said in the thing, it's very torquey. In fact, what was it last year before last? I took it up Moab Rim without ever sitting in the driver's seat, which I would never recommend anybody to do. But somebody told me, oh, you know, it's a side by side; those are junk. And I did. I just put it in first gear and I walked next to it and steered. And it did the entirety of Moab Rim without a driver in it.
Did you have Sean Smith with you?
I don't remember who was with us. But yeah, I still have it. I think it's got 4,000 miles on it now, and I'd say 3,700 of those miles have been off-road. Only, I think I drive it around town every once in a while, but for the most part, it's just an off-road toy.
Sweet. So you run and operate Unofficial Use Only. Go ahead and give us some background on it and what exactly you're up to these days.
So Unofficial Use Only physically started in 2016. Trying to think. So before that, I had built a lot of show cars for a lot of companies. I worked for AEV, and I was fortunate enough to work on some of the Jeep special cars. So, and then in 2014, I quit Jeep, or I quit AEV. We separated. I went down to Bruiser for a minute. I came back up here, and in 2016, I decided I would just go it myself, and I started building one-of-a-kind show cars, where I cut things in half and reshape them and make them unique. What are you doing? Is something wrong with me? Do I got a cat on me? Do I got bugs?
No.
Armando's
he's
very
hiding his shirt.
I have a Bruiser shirt on today. Like no forewarning. I some of this I didn't even know. I didn't know that you worked with Bruiser. And I just happened to have a Bruiser shirt on today. So I'm like,
so
you didn't happen to work at Adams Dry Shafts too, by any chance, did you?
Nope, never worked at Adams. Yeah,
Okay.
2015, I was down at Bruiser for almost 7 months. Jeff hired me as the COO, and you know I even have it won't come off the wall. But right here next to my Trump plate is a Bruiser head in bronze. But yeah, I was down there for the better part of a summer and into the right until Christmas. That's when I came home. And the next year I decided to start Unofficial Use Only. And the first big show car that we did was Path Killer, which was a JK with a Cherokee front end on it. And since then, I've done two or three show cars a year. Some of them have my name on them, some of them don't. Most recently I did a couple big ones for Quadratech, their JTE and the YJL. Right now I'm actually building 2 Brutes in the shop. So we have 2 TJ Brutes going and a 1966 Lincoln Continental that's 2,000 horsepower. So, and 2 weeks ago we started selling parts. So
sweet.
Last summer we started developing and designing some parts because, I helped in design on parts for other companies, and I decided it was time to try to do it here. So we came out with, I didn't carry one over as a prop, but replacement door pockets for your JL doors. It replaces the net that's in the door. And we went down the OE quality line. So they're polypropylene, just like the factory door. In fact, it's the exact same polypropylene as the factory door. Same grain as the factory door, same color as the factory door, but it gets rid of the net, includes cup holders. So that's the first product we're launching, and then we're going to launch a few more down the road. We've got an aftermarket bumper that we're going to come out with. We have the YJL grill, which Jeep gave us a license to do. We're going to do full-length stamp steel corner guards for JL, and then, just kind of move it along and do a few other things. So 2 weeks ago, we actually started selling parts. And I have kind of running into a bad problem is we ran out of parts to sell. So we're selling them faster than we thought we were gonna.
You can make them.
Right. Well, no, not faster than we can make them, just faster than we were prepared for. So we're making everything right here in the USA. We made sure the tools and everything else was made here. If I would have made it overseas, I probably would have saved about $60,000 on the tool. But I made it right here in Michigan. And they'll be, the nice part is it's a 40-minute drive from me to quality control the product before it goes out to customers. And we can make up to 900 sets a day. So,
wow, that's good.
We paid for a good tool. So we can make up to 900 sets a day. I just didn't anticipate how deep the need was for them. Because when we started selling them, we shipped 178 on the first 2 days, and those were pre-orders. And since then, we've shipped, close to 500 sets in 2 weeks. So it's
okay. But do they hold a Stanley?
Yes.
And that's why you're selling them.
Well, plus no more saggy balls.
Yeah, no more saggy balls, and they do. They look just like factory parts, right? They blend perfectly with the factory door. And they're the only aftermarket door pockets you can get that fit the 2024 electric seats.
Oh,
so
nice.
And then we're starting development on JK, so we're going to make them for JK too to replace the nets for the 12 and newers. I had the first prototype in my hand last Tuesday, and this Tuesday I authorized the new design. So we're going to start launching the tool for those, and hopefully in 12 weeks the tool will be done and we'll be able to ship the JK ones too. So aside from just doing the show cars, now we're gonna start doing some parts. But for me, the most important part is that they're very high level of quality, because that's like on the builds that I've done, that's kind of what I demand. So I want a very high level of quality, and I really want everything to be affordable. So when I looked at the market for the door pockets and I looked at the competition out there, and like American Adventure Lab is kind of the top of the mark from what you see in the door pocket realm, and they go for up to $300. So I decided that we were going to come to market at half the price. So we came to market at $150, which is half the price of the competition. And in my opinion, we're offering a higher quality product. Some people might not look that way because it's plastic versus metal, but mine doesn't look like origami. Mine looks like it came from your Jeep at the dealership. So hopefully it works, and hopefully a lot of people buy it. Northridge just put in a monster PO yesterday, so I'm pretty excited about that. And Jeep Performance Parts reached out, so we're talking about possibly getting into the Jeep Performance Parts line with them.
Cool. Well done.
So that's what I've been doing.
Nice.
So that kind of brings up my next question. Last week we talked, and I asked you if you thought there was any lack of innovation in the Jeep industry, and you kind of had a different take on it. You said that it's very debatable depending on the type of market that we're looking at. So
Yep.
I guess my question is the innovation these days geared more towards expensive builds or racing? Or is there still some sort of innovation left over for the average consumer?
I really think that it does swing both ways, kind of like what I told you yesterday, and just like Chris. Sorry, I had to throw that dig in and nobody got it. But yeah, it does swing both ways.
No.
So I've been in the industry now professionally since 2007. So that's when I professionally started in this industry. And every year there is some sort of minor innovation. You know, there's things that get better. The big giant leaps we might not see as often as we used to, because the technology of what we have today is really pretty good. You know, as far as like really innovative products, you know, you can look at a few companies and see guys that made a huge splash. AEV was definitely one of them. You know, in 2007 when they came out, and that's where I cut my teeth. That's where I first worked. They were the only company stamping steel bumpers and stamping steel hoods and doing things to that level. And they still keep doing that today. And same with suspension. You know, if you remember back in 2008, 2009, when AEV came out with their suspension, it was kind of a best of both worlds. It could go rock crawling all day. It could pull the same RTI score as the same year's Terraflex long arm. But since then, look at what's happened to suspension. Lots of other companies followed suit, right? Everybody else started coming out with dual rate and triple rate springs. Other people started really caring about shock valving. Instead of giving you the stuff just off the shelf, everybody had to gang up and get better to be able to compete with what AEV was doing at the time. And now we see, you know, suspensions out there that are worlds above what we could have had 10 years ago. You've got Terraflex, who makes a product, you know, back in 2005, 2006, we called them Terrible Flex. And now they make just this amazing stuff. Same thing with Rock Crawler, right? Look at Jeremy, and every year he strives to make better and better and better components. So we definitely see, at least I see, a huge amount of improvement over normal things, but we still don't see the big swing. Like 2007, AEV was stamping steel parts. They're still the only company that does it. I mean, nobody else is stamping bumpers and stamping hoods and stamping because it's not cost effective. Same thing like my door pockets. I could have come out with something like American Adventure Lab or Deviate or any of the other ones and just taken a flat plate of aluminum or steel and cut some moly panels into it and brake bent it, and it made it look like origami. But I decided to go a different route. You know, I could have put $2,000 into engineering and come out with those parts. Instead, we put $140,000 into a tool just thinking that it might sell. So, and it was the most daunting and scary thing I've ever done. And it still is, because until that tool's paid off, I'm just worried that tomorrow nobody will make an order. So it's, you know, it's scary to push the envelope that far, especially for a new guy or a small person, and even for major companies. But like I mentioned to you last week, you know, look at the Terraflex shocks, right? 6 years ago, that was an unheard of way to design shocks, you know, to make the fluid path between the shock and the reservoir so large that you didn't get cavitation. You know, for 60 years, everybody just put a hose that limited the flow and promoted cavitation. And that's the way it was. And then Terraflex said, hey, screw it. Let's do something a little bit different. And hopefully lots of other shock companies follow suit and start doing stuff because it just works so well. So yeah, we see a lot of innovation, but we see a lot of people who are stagnant, and a lot of people that are stagnant in the way that they think. So there's a very, very long answer to your very short question.
Where do you see the holes at in innovation? Where do you think we could fill those gaps?
I really think everywhere there can be a gap filled, right? We just need to look at things with open eyes and look at things differently than we're used to. You know, especially the internet. The internet is a phenomenal resource, but it's also a holdback because, you know, you get people go onto a JL page and say, I want to lift it this much, or I want to fit this size tire. How can I do it? And 90% of the answers are, well, if you need 37s, you need this much lift and you need this and this and this. Instead of, hey, you know, if you think outside the box, you can change your fenders, you can reshape this, you can keep it low, right? So it's the 90% that holds everybody back. If the 10% would get a little bit more vocal, maybe we'd see a little more innovation.
The 10% meaning consumer or manufacturer?
Both. I mean, really both, because you've got...
So, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here. You started to talk, so I shut up because I respect you more than you respect me.
Since when does that happen?
So, okay, let's take it this way. If you're a consumer, you're just a nobody. You're a guy that's a weekend warrior. Do you think there's any way someone can just say, call up a company? You think this is a viable thing? They can just call up a company and say, hey, I had this idea. And then this company actually listens to him. Do you think we're in that area of open-mindedness these days?
I think you can get some of that, and I think there are people within companies that are open-minded. The downfall is it's hard to reach the person that has that open mind. I think most of the times when you call, and even me, when I call a company, instead of just calling the owner's cell phone, and I get the normal sales guy, if I start asking questions, they're so shoehorned into this is their appropriate answer, this is the appropriate response, you know, this is what they can say, this is what they can't say. So I think you just need to reach the right person. And that makes it trickier for somebody with an idea or somebody with, you know, passion about something or a very interesting question is it's hard to reach the right person. And that's why I love podcasts like this. One, I've listened to a whole bunch of your guys' episode because you make it fun. But there's other podcasts like, and it's a little more low buck and it's a little more catered to brand new Jeepers, but like the Jeep Talk Show, they always have fresh Jeepers, you know, people who are brand new to it because that's kind of what they cater to. And so I go on there all the time and I'll answer questions for people, you know, to try and help people out. Because when I needed the information, I got that, right? I was fortunate with where I was and the people that I matriculated with, because like all the Lunatic Fringe members were friends and family, and you know, a lot of the innovators at Jeep I had a first name basis with. So when I asked questions, I had, you know, just powerhouses feeding me information. And because I learned so much, I love to be able to share it. So I go on any podcast I can and I try and help out anywhere I can. And I don't know everything, but some of the stuff I know about is helpful to some people. So if everybody, you know, Chris and Gabe and Armando, you guys have been doing this for a long time. You have a wealth of knowledge. And the fact that you're sharing it with people in a public forum like this, that's where real innovation will help. Because if you had a random person ask you a question, you guys would delve into it. If it seemed like an interesting question, you delve into it and you talk about it on the show and you get to the meat of it. And you'd even reach out to people in the industry to help answer that question appropriately. And I think that's where we're going to get the huge innovation, is actually people sharing ideas and being friendly and helping each other versus getting on the internet and saying, you're a fucking idiot and you did it wrong. You have to do it this way.
Yeah, I think we're still there, though.
Oh, we like saying that, though.
Yeah, we're still at that
That's
point.
that's one of our favorite words.
Yep.
And I apologize because I apologize. You know, I swear. In fact, Einstein said swearing was a sign of intelligence, so fuck it. But
fuck all the time.
And I know I've listened to this. I listen to the show, and I know you guys drop bombs every once in a while, so I don't have to cater the way that I speak because I'm here. But yeah, it's really important. Anybody helping push innovation and helping push the drive that we have and the love that we have for these sports that we're in is really important.
So I remember,
go on, Gabe.
Maybe 13 years ago, way back in the day. Well, I don't say way back, but let's say around 2010-ish. There would be companies that would post questions like kind of market research. Hey, what do you think if we came out with this? Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of positive feedback to those Facebook posts. I have a feeling if that was to happen again today, either A, they would just be scrutinized, or B, someone would just take that idea and steal it.
Yeah,
you'd have
both.
See it.
You'd really have both. I mean, last year at SEMA, and this is a really good example because not everybody gets to go to SEMA, but you guys have. I think everybody here's seen it and been there. Last year at SEMA, I had a booth. It was the first booth I ever had. Very, very expensive. I'm not doing it again this year. And we launched the new door pockets. We showed the prototypes. And in my booth, I want to say it was Wednesday morning, I wasn't quite to the booth yet. Or no, I was at the booth, but I had gone outside to smoke because I'm a filthy smoker. And some Chinese chick came in and had the door open to the JL, and she had a handheld 3D scanner and was trying to scan our door pocket. And luckily, my son shut the door on her. And then it was like 2 or 3 hours later, Kevin from Rockslide Engineering, his wife actually pulled a girl out from underneath their display vehicle where she was taking pictures of their new step. So yeah.
How is this still happening at SEMA when you go back to shit? I was there, I think over 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I was there. It was when Larry sold Poison Spider. I was at that SEMA that he sold Poison Spider. And that was the biggest year when all the Chinese came in with cardboard cutouts making templates.
That was 16.
Of all the armor.
Yep.
And SEMA said, we are not allowing that anymore. We're going to have security. We're going to stop them from coming in after hours. This was after hours.
Yeah.
That they were doing this.
Yeah, and they had, I remember it because Onyx Ada, it was Dave Logan and the guys at Onyx Ada, or Onyx Ada, or however you say it. Mm-hmm. They actually had some knockoff, like direct knockoff of their proprietary stuff. And SEMA kicked that group out. And even back even further, like 2009, AEV, one of the owners of AEV, who has apparently just massive balls, he went into the Chinese section and there was a knockoff of the AEV front bumper, and he ripped it off of their display and carried it out and threw it in the
same thing.
He walked outside, carried it out, threw it in the dumpster, and then waited to get in trouble from SEMA. Luckily, he didn't get in trouble. But yeah, I mean, people knock stuff off. But I look at it too, right? Somebody was trying to 3D scan my prototype that was on a Jeep. And that told me right then that it's probably a good product, right? If this is the first time it's ever been seen and people are talking about it enough where somebody actually came into the booth to scan it, that maybe it's going to be a good product. And it kind of solidified in my head that I needed to start raising money to be able to manufacture this thing.
Yeah, I might be wrong here, but from what I understood with Poison Spider back in the day, because I was sponsored by him in Australia, so I started seeing counterfeit Poison Spider products coming into Australia, because Australia gets a lot of Chinese products. We can't afford to buy American because the shipping costs too much, and
the shipping's ridiculous.
All the rest of it. Yeah, so we get a lot of our stuff from China. Or if one of the off-road shops would bring a container in fully loaded with American parts, which is only 2 shops in Australia that do that. I think there's only 1 left, and he's in WA. So when all this Chinese stuff was coming in, I would call Dusty and give him their contact details.
Oh my God, I miss Dusty so much.
Yeah. So from what I understand is that whatever patents or copyrights or whatever they had on their products were only in the US.
Yeah,
It
and
didn't
if you
pertain outside of the US. So if you got caught selling counterfeit poison spider parts or whatever, it didn't matter. You couldn't do anything as an American company.
Yeah, and I have a friend who's he's a patent lawyer, and he actually lives in Colorado. But like, if he patents something worldwide, it costs so much money. You know, like, and I talked to him about my door pockets, but to patent my door pockets worldwide would have cost more than the tool cost, and the tool costs, you know, over $130,000. So, and then all they have to do is certain municipalities in certain countries. Like here in the U.S., if you patent something and somebody else changes it more than 23%, you're fucked, right? In municipalities in other countries, if they change it like 3%, it doesn't matter. You know, so they can literally change the hardware, and then they can make the part, and legally there. So spending that kind of money is very daunting. You know, like I have a box somewhere right here, and it's a part that we just patented that we're going to release soon, and you guys will probably like it for the versatility of it. But we actually went through the patent process on it because it is so versatile. It doesn't just work with our stuff. It works with anybody's stuff. And it works in multiple genres, right? So it's not just off-road. It can be, or not just Jeep. It can work with trucks and side-by-sides, and then it can also work for a lot of your firearm manufacturers. So, you know, it's kind of a wide-reaching little product, and that's the only reason that we went through the patent process. And even that's scary, right? You dump 20 or 30 grand on a piece of plastic that is smaller than this. It's daunting.
Damn tool.
Chris, do you
again.
recognize that? Do you recognize that part?
Damn tool again.
Oh yeah, Chris, can you tell the story of this? So I brought this prop on the show. I've carried this. I've carried this with me since 2009, and this is a power tank tool. And what it does is it pulls the Schrader valve out of valve stems. And Chris is intimately aware with this. Could you tell us the story for all the listeners?
Sure, why not? We were at the Moab Expo, which I don't even think Moab Expo even exists anymore.
No, it was the 4x4 Expo, and it was they did it during SEMA time because
during COVID.
Because SEMA was canceled that year.
Yes, that's right.
Yep.
Correct. Yes. So we went out there, and I didn't have a booth there. I just went out to have a look at it. After the day was finished, we were all in the parking lot. Well, everyone was coming out, and I've walked over to my Jeep, and I'm like, just talking to everyone, and next minute I can hear this psst. I'm like, do I have a puncture? Like, is my tire going down? So I run over to the Jeep, and it stops. And I'm like, oh, I must have been hearing things. Well, then I hear it again. And I'm like, there's something going on. So I go to the Jeep, and it's constantly leaking this time. And I'm like, where is this coming from? And it's coming from my valve. And I'm like, how does it start and stop? And then I look and go, the valve's still in there. And at the same time that I was walking over there, I saw a flash, like the car beside me. I don't know if it was a Jeep or a truck, but I saw a flash of a person running. That looked like they had a skirt on. So I'm like, it didn't even twig to me that, you know, a girl ran off from a Jeep or whatever, because who does that? So I look around and I'm like, everyone's looking at me, and I'm getting my freaking air tank out and all my lines out, and they're all looking at me, and Greg's standing there. And I'm like, where the fuck did he come from? Because I didn't see him. It was just me, Troy Gayton, I think Sean, and somebody else. I didn't know if Sean was there or not, but Sean always seems to be around somewhere when we're there. And I look and I'm like, what are you doing? And he's got this smile on his face. And he's playing with his fucking thing in his hand. And he's like, hey, are you looking for something? And I'm like, what? And he goes, maybe a valve? I'm like, what do I need a valve for? And he goes, because I undid your valves, like you didn't see me loosen your valve off and run off. And then when you turned back around, I came back and pulled the fucker out. That damn fucking tool. It's the first time I've seen it. It's the first time I've seen it since 2019. 2020? 2020. I think it was 2020.
2020.
Was,
Yep.
Yep. So it's been 4 years. Damn PTSD. If I walk out tomorrow and I've got a flat tire on my Jeep, you're going to get a phone call.
Oh, yeah. So anybody and everybody listening, if you know where Chris parks his Jeep, pull his valve cores out and put them on his windshield.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. If his coworkers are listening.
We just need to call Justine. She'll take care.
My air tanks aren't full anymore because here in Huntsville you can't fill them up anywhere.
It sounds like they need a machine out there to fill them up.
Yeah, but you know what? I'd have to market so hard for that machine to actually pay itself off because no one here understands or has a power tank.
Every welding supply shop can fill them, or the beverage containers, the ones that fill the beverage containers for fountain drinks. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they can fill them. No?
Not here. No. It's not the Wild West down here, buddy.
You can call Power Tank and actually just get the machine, and you could do it in-house. You could be the one-stop shop to sell those.
Yeah, do you know how much that is? Do you know how much it is to set that up?
Yes, I do.
Is that $15,000 for that machine?
It's $50,000.
50?
Something like that, yes. And then you got to go through all the safety bullshit.
Yeah.
Fire marshal, this, that, insurance, a fire retardant system in the roof.
No, it is a fire
retardant system.
No, it is a fire retardant system. CO2 actually puts fire out.
Well, whatever it is, the sprinklers. I don't know. All they told me was we've got to get a fire marshal in to make sure it's safe and this and whatever else. And I'm just like, you know what? You said fire marshal, that's enough.
Yeah.
Because I like it. I use it that much. I was going to get one for the house.
To make $40 a fill up. Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds like a freaking bargain.
But then I found a good place in St. George when I was living. It was $10 a bottle.
Yeah, we've got a scuba supply shop up the road, and the scuba supply shop charges $11 for a 10-pound and I think $14 for a 15-pound. So that's where I go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sounds like a good deal. So, Greg, I got one more question for you before we get into a few more other things.
Yeah.
How many times a day when you're out wheeling at, let's say the last time you're at EJS, and you're wearing your kilt, how many times are you asked, are you wearing anything under there?
I think in the grand scope, in the grand scheme of a day, I'd say it's at least once an hour.
And I'll be one of those people. Every time I see him, I'm like, dude, you wearing anything under there?
Well, and the typical appropriate answer is if you're wearing anything underneath it, then it's a skirt. So, a real Scottish gentleman wears it without anything underneath.
Yes.
So you're literally freezing your nuts off during EJS when it's cold.
Surprisingly, no. You're wearing, so it depends.
It's wool.
There's sport kilts, which are very lightweight and very wimpy, but a real kilt is wool. So if you know it's going to be cold out, you put on a wool one. And I mean, honestly, it's like wearing a comforter. So you're just warm all the time. But there's no such thing as swamp ass or chafing or sweaty balls. It just does not exist when they're just breathing.
Yep.
Has your son bought one yet?
Nope, he refuses.
Really?
Yep.
Good for him. Only needs to be one of you.
Well, and for him, I understand it because, he's 6'6" now. And if he were wearing a kilt, every girl
he'd be looking under.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Walking under the undercarriage. Oh, look at that. hey, you need to get your oil changed.
Yeah, somebody tries to run
I think you're just leaking.
Hey, look at that. The carpet really does match the drapes.
Right.
That's why every time I go wheeling with Greg, I'll make sure that I'm in front. So when he gets out, I don't see anything because the door's in the way.
Ma'am, cross your legs.
You never see anything. So the length of the kilt should be just past the knee, and then pretty much in any configuration, there's enough weight in the wool where it keeps it draped, and you don't see it unless you're showing. And it's so small that nobody can see it, right?
There's the obvious joke.
Right.
There's the obvious joke that comes in.
Yeah, you got to realize.
You can't see past the hair.
No, you got to realize I'm hung like planet Pluto. It's hard to see with the naked eye.
Yeah.
So let's get into some off-roading news. Just the other day, it sounds like Hoonigan is making some business moves. Just curious what your take is on that.
I honestly haven't read any of it. I've been so busy I've seen that the internet is alive with it, but I don't know what's going on. So I can't give you my take unless you tell me what's going on.
Armando, you're pretty well versed in that off the top of your head. Can you just fill us in? Or should I bring it up?
Yeah, so the Hoonigan brand, which is essentially what Wheel Pros has renamed themselves with this influx of PE money, and they own a number of brands that we all know, KMC, Terraflex, as well as the Transamerican brand that they bought from Polaris when Polaris ran it to the ground and got it for pennies on the dollar. All of the brands that subsequently Transamerican owns, Rubicon Express, ProComp,
Poison Spider,
and Smittybilt, and a few others. So, and on top of that, there's a number of other companies that I didn't even realize they own that are in part of that portfolio that is huge.
It's not even in the off-road industry.
Yeah, not even off-road stuff. It's just motorsport stuff overall. There's probably 20 brands, 30 brands that are in that portfolio. So they've been doing this acquisition. COVID time, they started going crazy with buying up everything. Well, everything kind of shrunk on the vine. So now they're going through Chapter 11 bankruptcy. They're selling off the Full Parts brand to ORW.
So I got a quick question. Does that mean that Larry might be able to buy Poison Spider back? Because that would be awesome.
Well, here's where this is at though. So where this gets weird is they're putting some assets in bankruptcy. They've sold off other assets to ORW, which ORW is now owned by ARB.
Okay.
So ARB is a large portion of what ORW is in creating these companies, which now they own Nacho Lighting and a couple other companies that they're picking up. So ORW, Greg Adler left and bought into ORW and has been building that up with properties that the Adler Foundation has owned that Full Parts has been leasing back to them, and then said no renewing your lease. So there's some locations where they used to be Full Parts stores, lease ran out, now they're ORWs. It was like one day Full Parts was gone, the next day ORW signed in and everything was filled up there. It's like that. So this is a full circle with the Adlers, with Greg Adler and that group. But he's got ARB, which is considerable funding behind it. Plus the ORW money isn't probably anything to sneeze at. So there's a lot going on with that. And in that, Poison Spider goes to ARB. So does ARB decide to use it as a way to get an armor line into their portfolio? Or do they try to look and load it? And does Larry have any interest? I don't know. I don't.
Well, Larry made some posts.
I think Larry's done.
Well, he made some posts a couple months ago that he was interested in trying to get it back. So that's why I asked that.
It would have to be for the right money.
Yeah, it would have to be for the right money,
because it's nothing.
Right now
it's a name. That's all it is a name.
Right now, yeah, it's absolutely nothing. You know, it got burned into the ground. 90% of the new Jeep owners don't even know what it is. So it's all us old gray-haired people that know what it is. But, the respect that we have for Clifton Slay, who started it, and Larry, who turned it into a monster powerhouse. If it came back under the same tutelage, that would be pretty amazing.
It would be pretty cool.
It would be cool. It would be very hard for you to bring it back just with the fact that it's kind of disappeared into oblivion.
Yeah.
If you just do a search of any recent posts about Poison Spider, it's people that have the cheap Chinese stuff or whatever. When the quality diminished, it just got so far run into the ground that I don't even think that you could even bring it in with a proper rebirth.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And in such a short time, because in 2018, it was still a powerhouse brand. We're 6 years later, and it's nothing. But
Well,
yeah,
it's because when JL came out, a whole different community of people came out with the JL.
yep.
It's different to what the JK people were.
It
the
happens.
TJ, YJ.
Yeah, it happens every time there's a new launch.
And it's not family. It's not like they're brand specific anymore. They're just after the part that doesn't they care what it costs. If it's cheap and it looks good, they buy it.
Yeah.
So there's no brand loyalty there anymore.
It's. I mean, honestly, it's been like that since I got in the industry. So I mean, even before I was professionally in the industry, because I started in the industry in about 2000. That's when 2001 I bought my first Jeep. But it's always been like that. Every launch of a new vehicle, you see the same thing. You see all the new people. They buy all the cheap, quick, easy things to get their hands on. They buy the cheap line suspensions, and then 3 to 5 months later, they're upgrading and upgrading and upgrading. So that's never changed. Just the volume has changed, right? When you look at the TJ, there was like 1 million of them total. So 10-year run, they built 1 million TJs, or right around there. JK, they built almost 3 million. JL, they've already surpassed 3 million, and they're barely past the halfway mark. So it's,
yep.
With the volume that they're making, you see so many new people in the genre. And then with the advent of social media being as prevalent as it has been since, I'd say, 2015 and newer, that's when it really started to take off. You see all the other stuff, right? We get all the they're not buckle bunnies, but the Jeep thoughts that post scantily clad pictures and try and get free parts, and then you get the other people who build YouTube channels based on wearing clothes that is inappropriate and showing off their bits, and they get huge, right? I hate to say it, but I'm trying to be mildly calm about how I say it, but it's just it's degrading the brand. It's degrading what we do. When they don't have anything intellectual to say, it doesn't help, and especially when they have so many viewers.
Right.
But the tried and true and the core guys, I mean, guys like the three of you who are passionate about off-road and passionate about the off-road industry and Jeeping in general, you'll continue to share the legacy and teach some of the younger people and teach some of the, what it's really about. So as long as we always have those core people that are helping and doing the right thing, I think in general it moves in the right direction. But because of the volume, it's harder to get that. You almost need a larger volume of good people. The problem is the good people don't show their tits and ass and make OnlyFans and wear spandex, so it makes it harder.
Like we've gone into the dark.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'll just state the obvious. This is all Scott Bloom's fault.
It is always Scott's fault.
Yeah, always.
I'm in Michigan, and we all know it's Scott's fault.
Look, I just missed all the big parties we used to have.
Oh, there was always good parties, yeah.
I come right on I was so looking forward to coming to the States and doing Jeep shows and going to the after parties and all that kind of stuff. I got a year. Like the very last year I got here was like the last of the big parties.
Well, we stopped it because you started showing up.
I'm like, God damn it.
Even Grandpa's stopped having parties, right?
Yeah, well, no, there's stuff still happens at Grandpa's, but it's not as big as it was.
So not the full week of every day. All day.
And Danny was definitely very worried about COVID. So he really scaled back, and he was really nervous about the amount of people because of the COVID vaccine, or not the vaccine, but because of COVID. So he
the head right there.
so he slowed down a lot. That used to be, for anybody who was here back then, and Chris got a year of it, but Danny's was kind of and that's Grandpa's, right? But Grandpa's was kind of the golf course of this industry, right? You had a couple shindigs that would happen during SEMA, but the real golf course happened during the week at EJS, and it was usually at Grandpa's or a couple of the other things. And then a lot of the lesser known companies at the time started doing things all over town, right? They'd have something at the Sunset Grill, which gives you the shits, and they'd have something at Zach's, and they'd have, and they
That'll give you the shits.
right.
Sex would give you the shits. What are you talking about?
Everywhere's going to give you the shit.
Right. But instead of doing, that core group only at Grandpa's, with Mopar and with Dynatrack and with, all the heads of the industry at the time, instead of doing it that, now everybody's doing it all over town, which also pulled away from Danny's. Because he's such a good dude. Like, if you really got to know him. So the reason he started was really cool. And the reason that he got so involved, he was always a Jeeper. And he had this pretty well outfit garage. And he left his garage open to anybody, right? So it didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter if you were in the industry, if you weren't in the industry. If you were in Moab and you were out on a trail and you broke down, you could beg, borrow, or pull your vehicle to Danny's, and he would let you use his fully equipped garage with all of his tools and all of his fluids and everything else to repair your shit. So you repair your shit, and his only rule was when you left it better than you found it. So if you used 1 bottle of oil, replace it with 2. If the floor was dirty, scrub it clean. And that's how Danny got so involved in the off-road industry, is just having such a kind heart and helping people. And then it snowballed into what a lot of us got to experience when, you'd show up on Tuesday night and the owner of every important company was there, and the TV personalities were there, and Mopar and all the show cars and Jeep was there. And it all stemmed just because he was a helpful guy, and he would bend over backwards to help you. So yeah, it just goes to show what this industry's good at is, if you're a good person, if you help other people, you'll get rewarded. And he got rewarded for a lot of years, right? Just because he was a good dude.
Yep.
Sorry, I went off on another tangent.
No, that's fine.
No, it's good. It's good. It's a good synopsis of what Danny has done. We've been there with EJS, and friends' rigs broke down and needing something. We pull into Danny's, and he's out there, and if you need to find something, he's like, oh, let me see if I got one. And he'll grab it. You just go to the auto parts store, and if it doesn't show up till the next day, just take it back.
Yep.
So it's just that idea of what that is. And back then when that started, there wasn't a real shop in Moab that was really doing any work.
No, well, you had Steve Nance.
Anything.
You had Steve Nance doing his thing.
Steve was down there, but he was so busy.
Oh yeah.
That week of Moab that there was really no place for you to go.
Yep.
Yeah. And Rory didn't come along until 2015.
No, and Rory
didn't come along.
Rory just moved his shop, so he went to Chris. So Chris gave Rory his old shop, or is leasing it to him. So now he's at the far south end of town. Do you remember where all the school buses were? Like when you were going towards BFE, there was the school buses on your left. Well, that was Chris's place, Chris Bruner. And Chris Bruner is a badass, but he did the same thing. You could use his shop. He had tools. He had a hoist. He had all the goodies. But that's where Rory's place is now. So Rory moved to Chris's place, and Chris evacuated. He has another little shop that he's got kind of set up. But Chris Bruner is very not known as much as most people should, because he's the same type of dude, right? He'll bend over backwards. He's actually one of the guys that started Area BFE, like when it very first started.
Mm-hmm. I don't believe I've met him.
Yes, Chris. He used to drive around in a Defender 90.
Yep, and he's got the boom truck, which is like an old power wagon that's 6-wheel drive, and it's got booms on it that have speakers. But he's a really good dude. He actually used to be one of the trail guides for Marlboro back in the early 90s. Because Marlboro used to do tours in Moab. They had their whole fleet of Marlboro Jeeps.
Okay.
I did not know that.
Yep.
Speaking of tour guys, is Dan Mick still out there doing his thing?
Yes, Dan is still out there.
Yep, Dan's still out there.
His son's taking over for
Yeah,
it, right?
I think Richard does the vast majority of it, but Dan's still kicking.
He's doing a lot of it.
Yep.
Yeah, Dan's still there. Ray Carter, his father-in-law, works for Dan doing tours too.
Really?
Yeah. He lives in Moab. That's where I was staying for.
Ray Carter the second.
Yes. Ray Carter the third. Or the fourth.
Third.
He's the fourth.
The third or fourth?
He's
no,
the
Ray
fourth.
Carter. Your Ray Carter's
He's
the
the
fourth.
Yeah.
So yeah, the third lieutenant.
No, it's not. It's not his dad. It's his father-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Fuck me. Get a fucking name badge.
This is how we get lost on everything. We start these stupid side freaking runs. Oh God.
So we were just talking about the bankruptcy with Hoonigan, and very untastefully, Metal Cloak released a memo to the industry.
Really?
Yeah, and it did not get the reception I don't think they were expecting. Here it is. I don't know if you can see that.
No, there's no way. I'm
smaller.
using a cell phone, so I would need 8 pairs of cheaters.
So it
Go
breaks
like
down
this.
to it's just a metal from the desk of Matson Breaky memorandum to all Metal Cloak authorized installers, and he goes on and he talks about the Wheel Pros and the Ready Lift Pro Comp and everything, Chapter 11, and he posts a link to the situation with Wheel Pros preparing for bankruptcy, and he says the struggle will be real and can significantly impact our industry and our customers. Metal Cloak is and always has been family owned and operated. And he goes on to say basically their supply chain is not affected.
Okay. So basically he
You think
wasn't
that's hitting it a little bit?
So basically he's just saying he wasn't one of the supply, he didn't use Wheel Pros. Like, I mean, honestly, I'm a very small shop in northern Michigan, and I can order from Wheel Pros. I have a setup with them, so I can order, and I get a surprising discount, right? In fact, I wasn't allowed to, even though I've used TerraFlex on a lot of the show cars, I wasn't allowed to be a TerraFlex dealer because there's another dealer that's too close that bitched that I was here. But once Wheel Pros bought it, then I could actually buy TerraFlex product, and TerraFlex actually makes some good product. So, but that's kind of a low blow to throw out a memo like that to all their dealers. I mean, basically all he's saying, if you break it down to the most simple, is that he wasn't buying from Wheel Pros, so it doesn't affect him. But why?
Keep buying my product.
But why even go through the motion of drafting that?
Yeah.
That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help your customers or your suppliers or anybody else. So I guess I just don't understand why you would do that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, let's face it, Metal Cloak is not the best suspension company to begin with. So it's just kind of odd that they would
Corey's a good
put themselves out there that way. Corey,
okay.
of course, yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Depends which
He's
side
not
you
just
look at.
okay. I love Corey.
Yeah.
Side you
Corey
look
is
at
a really great guy.
Corey's
I was
amazing.
being sarcastic, Gabe.
Sure you were. Sure. But
Fuck me.
But one thing that I respected about Metal Cloak for a long time, aside from Corey, is they actually, when they first started out, it was a group of engineers that were engineering stuff, right? And they were trying to break the envelope, and they were trying to do better. But I don't know if they were ever like really in tune with what was really going on. So they had some innovation and they had some cool stuff. I mean, honestly, in my personal opinion, the best thing they ever did was put Corey on that fucking trailer, because it just gets marketing like no other. But
right.
But yeah, it's I don't know. That's just a really
they were
weird
going to
memo.
can that.
That would have been the stupidest mistake they ever did.
They were going to can that trailer.
But why would you put out that memo? Especially, the companies are freaking out and hurting, right? Don't rub it in. I mean, but we've seen it for so long, right? And a lot of the listeners and a lot of the new Jeepers don't know it. But do you guys remember Kinderhook, right? Kinderhook owned fucking everybody. And they went around and started buying everybody. They bought Super Winch, which was a family-owned company for 60 years and made a phenomenal winch. And they turned it into fucking garbage in a year. and then dumped it to Weston, who's trying to bury it out, right? So we've always had companies like that, investment groups that buy up all the good guys and then fuck it up. So, I mean,
that's what we're just talking about.
Yeah,
Terraflex. Like how long is Terraflex going to last being a good product
right
before they fuck that up?
Yeah, and it's cyclical, right? We always see the same thing over and over again, but to throw out a memo and make it public like that and even put a link in it, that's, I don't know.
Yeah. Stirring up the
he had to have been thinking something, and maybe it's making a lot of people talk about Metacloak, but in my opinion, that's not the right way to do it. But my opinion doesn't matter that much, right? I've got a little shop that employs 2 people, and we're starting to start doing some parts, but God, that's just, I don't know. It's
he might as well have just he might as well have just done an AI bit with Dennis Woods driving off a cliff.
Why doesn't he? Yeah, that's
pretty much.
I don't like it.
Everyone's doing this right now. It's like,
yeah. Well, and again, I haven't I haven't watched the internet. I haven't clicked on one of those links in the last couple of days because we've been struggling to get product out. Right, we're overthinking and overreaching and trying to get. We didn't make enough in the first run, so it's how do I get resin here? How do I get color here? How do I get it going to fulfill these orders? Because I don't want my orders to sit for more than a couple days, right? I don't ever want to be the guy that you have to wait 3 weeks to get your parts. I want my shit to go out right after the order comes in. And today, we're completely caught up. We have every order fulfilled. But if we have 2 days like we did the last 2 days, I will be completely out of product and I won't be able to send anything out by Friday. And I have this monster Northridge order that I need to get out. So we actually called Tennessee because Tennessee's who has the resin, and I spent more money than I paid for cars on priority overnighting 1,000 pounds of resin. So I don't know. I haven't done a lot of interneting. Even today, I didn't open the internet once today until 15 minutes before I was supposed to be on this. And for me, 15 minutes before is a half hour because I've always lived by one thing, and it's on time is late, or early is on time is late, and late is unacceptable.
Right.
So, it's this is my first internet of the day, and I got to tell you guys, because we haven't said it, and I know I've talked way too much in this because I talk too much in general, but I'm really, really honored that you guys invited me because, I look up to you guys, and I have for a long time.
It was all Gabe. I didn't want to see you.
Well, not you, Chris.
The Americans.
I appreciate
you talk about the brown Americans in the room.
Yeah, the brown Americans.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that you're a fan of the show. So what are your 2 favorite episodes of the show?
God.
Now you're testing because does he really watch?
I do. And I don't usually watch. I usually listen. So I'll play it in my head while I'm working. But I got to say, you guys went after somebody in the industry, and you dug up all this.
You can say it.
Well, yeah, you dug up all this research and you really dug into it, and that really rang a bell with me. And that particular person, I had never had a bad encounter with him personally. He had always, the one time I met him, he bent over backwards to help me. But I'd seen some of the stuff go down, and I'd heard some of the stuff go down. And, when you have 20 or 30 people saying it, you tend to lean one way, especially when it's 20 or 30 people saying the same damn thing. But that resonated a lot with me because, as you guys know, I had a traumatic incident with a shitty person who really...
You actually reached out to me after that
I did.
Episode.
But I had a traumatic incident with a shitty person who set me back years. And even I had to deal with the IRS, and I had to deal with all kinds of shit. And I've always looked up to people who aren't afraid to ruffle a feather, especially when it's spreading truth. A couple years ago, Tom Woods, and it wasn't Tom, it was just his page. It was Sean Wood. Sean Wood had a shitty customer who was doing some shitty stuff, and he outed him on the internet. And, like that night I clapped. I was so excited. And a few other people in the industry have done it, but most people try and keep their lips shut. Like even right now, I'm talking about it, and I didn't say the name of the person you outed or the person that fucked me. And
we can talk about the person who fucked you if you like.
Oh yeah, well his name was Jeff Yerk. I even have somebody made stickers and shipped them to me that say #don't be a jerk, and I still have those stickers. And the girl who sent them to me, she's in Florida, but she sent me like 2,000 of those stickers, and we gave them out. But yeah, it's there's always going to be shitty people, just like there's always going to be shitty companies, and for people to actually stand up for themselves and stand up for the people around them and talk about it. That was one of my favorite episodes. Like I really respected that you didn't just talk shit. You actually dug in and you learned shit and you talked to lots of people. You researched it like it was a real news story and like you were real reporters. And I really respected that. And I also really love the fact that literally almost episode somebody bashes Scott. Because I love Scott to death, but the fact that he gets bashed all the time, it's fun. It happens on the internet, but to see it here, so yeah, I dig it.
Sure I'm pretty sure he asks for a pay rise every year because he gets bashed.
Yeah.
So
it's like every time I work at Jeep, I get bashed. I need a pay rise.
Yeah. Well, and he puts himself out there, right? I mean, part of his job is to answer questions on the internet, and he does it all day, every day. So he's bound to get, torn a new one. And the best, I love it when he gives a very intellectual and very smart answer, and then people rip him up because they don't know who he is. They don't know that he has the information. Like they have no clue that the information is at his fingertips.
My most favorite part of the day.
Yep.
Yep. You watch all the idiots come in thinking they know more than what the engineer knows.
Right.
Yeah.
No. Not going to happen.
So there was another episode you liked also. I don't know if you want to talk about that one because they don't like it when I talk about it. But if you want to,
which one?
Is it one of your dreams, Gabe?
No, the shooting one.
Oh, well, and again, like I even delved into that a little bit but I was very careful on how I spoke because I've conditioned myself to not be negative. But oh my God, since the onset of 10 things I hate about my JL. It was just this fucking drivel of idiocy that came out of a mouth. And the only reason that 10 million people tuned in is because you could see the fucking hoo-hoo through her little shorts. And
which episode was that? I didn't see that.
It was one of the first.
God damn it.
And
I just used to mute it.
I mean, I have to say, I give them props for being so successful at doing that shit because I don't know how to, and I definitely don't have the equipment because nobody wants to see a fucking fat white dude wearing fucking skin jeans, right? If I put in some camel toe shorts,
you should do it in the kilt.
Yeah, well, I would.
Some kilt.
What I should do is I should practice my handstands and walk around doing interviews in a handstand in my kilt because it's the same thing. And I even tried, right? And I hate to say it this way, but I actually tried. We were at a couple events in Moab, and I went out of my way to help them by getting equipment and machines to move their shit around, to help them fix stuff. And I helped a couple other times. I even pulled them out once on the trail, and they don't even know my fucking name, right? I spent all this time, and every time I walk up, I get snubbed and I get cold shoulder. And like even once at SEMA, I was in a booth. I was doing what I needed to do, right? I had 2 show cars in the booth, and this girl comes up carrying a fucking dog, even though dogs aren't allowed. And I asked, first thing, and I know this person. A couple months before, I had helped pull them out of a ditch. And I walked up and I was like, oh, can I help you? Who do you need to talk to? And she was like, oh, I need so-and-so, who was the person who had controlled the booth. And I said, oh, he'll be back in a couple minutes. And literally nose up in the air, turned around like I was a fucking peon. And I'm like, you can't treat people like that all the time because I'm generally a very nice person, but at some point it's just like, what the fuck? You're just a smudge on this industry. And like, I remember, I think, was it last year when Bill Steen and some of the other companies dropped them like a hot potato because of the OnlyFans. And then they're on their social media. Oh, well, we just didn't like those shocks. Bullshit. You got shit canned because you fucking show your butthole on the TV.
Yep.
So that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I don't think I've ever told you this, Greg, but on episode of Crawl 5280, where I'm stuck. I don't think Gabe, you should remember this. When I broke down on the Golden Crack for 13 damn fucking hours in the cold and trying to get eaten by mountain lions while I'm going out looking for wood in the middle of fucking darkness.
You were hoping for cougars.
Oh, I think I know where you're going with. York was playing on the crack and didn't come over to help or anything.
Yes, and I was glad he didn't come over because a certain person that I was wheeling with that day was going to kill him.
Oh, I won't say any names.
Because the person I was with does not like him at all because of what he did remember when he was Poison Spider? He was about to go with Poison Spider, get fully sponsored by Poison Spider.
He did get fully sponsored. I covered fucking Yerk's whole goddamn Jeep with Poison Spider, and I did it for free, that fucking piece of shit.
And then he done a backflip.
Oh, yeah.
He did he took it all off or did something, whatever he was, and pretty much shit in their face. So that was
17. So the spring of 17 is when Jeff started latching on. And I met him at an event that Marvin was having down in Georgia. And he was so nice and blah, 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 telling me all these soldier stories. And we got along fairly well because he was really good at that. And then he asked me if I'd build his Jeep, and I'm like, yeah, I'll tweak your Jeep up a little bit for you. So he dropped it off, and he told me that he would help me with marketing because he knows that I don't computer well. And because we had some, heart to hearts about it. And I told him I didn't know shit about marketing or how to computer well. I just, somebody told me once
you just know how to.
Yeah. Somebody told me bust your ass and told people know your name. So that was my goal. And so, he was like this saving grace, and he could do all this marketing, and he was going to do it out of his own dime for, blah, blah, blah. And he actually asked me, he's like, well, what would you put on my Jeep? And I said, oh, well, to be honest, I'd like to call Dusty and a couple buddies. And if I can, I want to wrap it with Poison Spider, and I want to do a cool tailgate, and I want to do this extra stuff. So I built that Jeep in a short time, like repainted it, B-pillar chop, all the custom goodies, custom paint job, made the thing gorgeous. Did the tailgate. It ended up in Crawl Magazine. And when he came to pick it up, it was right before Easter Jeep Safari that year. He came to pick it up, and, he had told me all these wonderful soldier stories. And I respect service people, right? I respect the police. Those people put their lives on the line for no other reason than they want to do something good. Even police, right? There's fucking dickhead police, but 90% of them are amazing human beings who put themselves out there for us. So he had told me all these stories, and I actually talked to my wife before he came, and I told her, I'm like, I'm going to not charge him for what I just did because of, the shit he went through. And the wife and I agreed. She never really liked Yerk. She told me she thought something was, shady about him, but with the stories, and he had Reggie backing him up on his stories. And so we did, there was probably a $30,000 job that we did to his Jeep, and I didn't charge him a fucking penny. And I thought I was going to get marketing out of it. So that was stage one. And then he started doing marketing. He started the Unofficial Use Only road show, and he's getting a hold of all these companies. And I remember he got a hold of one company. I was like, no, I won't work with that company, right? My name can't be on that brand. And so he didn't work with them. But he did. He got in touch with all these companies that I worked with, Dometic, and did some Poison Spider stuff, and Genrite, and Pitbull Tires, and Power Tank, and all these companies that I'm friends with. And right before SEMA of 18, I started getting phone calls. So the first phone call I got was from Dometic, and Dometic called, and it was somebody that I'd known there for years, and they're like, hey, when are you going to pay your bill? And I asked, I'm like, what do you mean pay my bill? And they're like, well, we've shipped like $60,000 worth of product to you, and you've never paid for any of it. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? You shipped me a fridge. It's right here in my shop. So what he had done, him, Reggie, and Kate Fry, they owned a company that they had registered in Nevada called Unofficial Use Media. And what they were doing is they were using my EIN and my letterhead and my friendship with all these companies and getting them signed up to, I thought, just show off their stuff for the first year. And then the next year we were going to actually charge for marketing, and then I might make a penny. In reality, what he was doing is he was already charging all these companies. So he was charging Dometic like thousands of dollars a month for marketing and getting all the stuff and then selling it. And they were using Red Clay as their go-between, so that none of the sales went through my records. And they were doing it to, God, who was it? It was Dometic, Pitbull Tires, Genrite, Power Tank, S-Pod, Tom Woods Drive Shafts, right? Genesis Batteries. So all of these companies were paying a monthly fee and sending product that he was then reselling, but he never gave the money to anybody. And it was Reggie, Yerk, and Kate Fry were the owners of that company. So, I don't know. I've been nice to Kate since then, and I've talked to her a couple times, but the hard part for me is she signed, right? She was an owner of that company, so she had to have known something. But yeah, like the IRS came after.
Well, from far as I know, Kate didn't know the money side of it.
Maybe not, but she knew enough, because once I found out, and all of the companies, I talked to Genrite, and I talked to Dometic, and I talked to Pitbull, and Brandon Joyner, because apparently Brandon Joyner, I don't know if anybody remembers him, but he passed away the next year. Brandon Joyner bought from Jeff Yerk 30% of Unofficial Use Only for $250,000. But Jeff didn't own any of Unofficial Use Only to sell, right? I'm still for the life of my company, I've been the only owner. I own 100%. So, and then the worst part is Brandon passed away the next year. But all those companies had been in touch with me right before SEMA that year. So at SEMA, I had a lawyer draft up a cease and desist, and I did all this other stuff. And when Kate and Bob showed up to my place to pick up the J18 that I built, I showed them the paperwork, and I showed them and I explained to them everything that I knew that was going on, because I thought that they had nothing to do with it. And I was like, hey, here's my non-complete non-disclosure. If you guys sign it, if this goes legal, I'll protect you guys. And they both refused to sign it and left the property. So, and Bob was going to sign, but Kate talked him out of it. So I guess I'll never know, but
well, probably because they didn't understand what you were showing them.
Yeah, maybe.
Because they were pretty naive back then.
They were pretty naive, but I don't know.
Jeff's a pretty good sweet talker.
He was a great sweet talker. And then at SEMA, so SEMA went all week. Like on Tuesday, he threatened me. He actually grabbed my throat and held me against a wall. So I told, because we were in the RIP booth, I told Ross and I told Keith, and I explained what had happened, and I explained all the legal stuff that I'd found out. And I never went back to the booth. But I had told Keith that Brandon Joyner had signed over the Jeep to me, because Brandon Joyner owned that Jeep, and that I was supposed to take possession of it at the end of SEMA. So Friday, the last day of SEMA, it's about noon, and Ross comes over and wants to talk to me. So I'm talking to Ross behind a curtain, and I'm showing him all the paperwork, and I'm explaining to him everything. And then all of a sudden I get surrounded by police, and I get escorted out of the fucking building. and they searched me. They searched my car. They came back and searched my hotel room. They took my SEMA badge because Yerk apparently called the police and said that I was threatening him with a gun inside of the hall, even though I didn't have a gun and I made no such threat. But then I couldn't get back into SEMA and I couldn't confiscate the vehicle. And even the police, showing them all the legal documentation, and I'm like, look, this is the problem. They're like, well, he's a decorated soldier. We're not going to let you back in the building. So, that was the last time I ever spoke to him. That was the last time I ever saw him. And even with the cease and desists and everything else that I sent out, he never responded. With the collections, I sent collections after him. He never responded. And then he held my website hostage for 4 years. The beginning of last year, a friend in New York actually bought my website from him in the guise that it was for his daughter's creative art business. And then I finally got my website back. And even with that, like guys like Ian Johnson, I remember talking to Ian and explaining, and he's like, well, just change your name. Well, I'm not going to change my name because of some douche canoe. It's my name. I built it. It's my reputation. I'm not going to change it because somebody fucked me. So that's my side of the Yerk story. If you guys can dig up some more, God willing, I'll be proud of you. Because I know he's fucked some other businesses. Like after it happened, all these other businesses started reaching out and telling me how he did the same thing to them before that. Mm-hmm. But none of them would ever say anything publicly. So I think I made 1 or 2 public posts about it, and I left it lie because, it's just a shitty part of my existence, but it's my history too. So I'll never forget it. Yep. But now I'm extra careful. Anytime somebody wants to work with me, I'm making them sign non-competes, and I vet them for fucking weeks and weeks before I'll even talk to them, because one guy fucked it up.
Mm-hmm. Have you talked to Bob since then?
I've talked to Bob a couple times. I even changed the engine in his Jeep for like almost nothing. Right. So he blew up his engine again during COVID, and I went out of my way. I got him a new engine really cheap, and we changed it for him really cheap. And I've talked to him a couple times, but honestly, it's not like we're super friendly, because after it all happened, they stuck with him, right? Until they got fucked. So it's just, I gave him an out.
Well, it's because of what Jeff was like. That's what he does. Yeah. But if you're getting tag teamed by Reggie and Jeff, what would they believe? What would they believe you over them?
And then, like the last time I saw Reggie at Easter Jeep Safari, because he was in the 9-line truck, right? And all he did is give me a smirk and a 1-finger salute. So, I haven't seen, or I don't know what Jeff's doing, and I don't really care. He can rot for all I care about, as long as.
Well, no one's seen him.
Oh, I guarantee somebody's seen him, because he was with 9-line forever. But yeah, I don't care. They're useless people. They're waste of skin. They shouldn't breathe our air, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody out there, and somebody that might listen to us, I've done something stupid and I've wronged them one way or another. Dude, I'll make it right if I have. Right? Everybody makes mistakes, but man, that was the shittiest thing. One of the shittiest things that's ever happened to me in like my entire life existence.
Yeah. There's a difference between making a mistake and conniving someone, defrauding someone, purposely frauding someone. So,
like, I'm so sorry for the people who wear spandex that I busted your chops on this show. Please don't hate me forever.
Oh God!
I guess I got to stop wearing spandex.
Well, didn't stop Armando a couple of years ago.
Dude, I still remember.
Those weren't spandex.
I still remember standing there.
They were just sparkles.
They were tight enough to be spandex.
And I forget where we were at. We were somewhere. I think it was one of the. It might have been one of the On the Limited off-road shows, but I remember bidding up to $1,000 to get to cut fucking Armando's beard off. Remember that? And somebody else got that. Somebody else got it.
Oh, that was at Smokey, and that was Nadell.
Was it Smokey? Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, Smokey.
Under the
It's
bridge.
Mike Liddell. Under the bridge of Smokey.
Yep. That's where he was
I remember that video.
in his sparkly pants.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot that he was wearing sparkly pants.
That was the challenge. The challenge
Yeah.
was I had to wear the sparkle pants and get my beard shaved if they raised the 10K.
Yep.
They did it, and I put my beard where my mouth was.
I'll tell you, you'll never know how mad my wife was because I did some of it live on Facebook, and my wife, she started calling me because she heard me say 1,000. And oh my God, I'll tell you what, for like 2 months, all I heard about was where do you have $1,000 and why do you have $1,000 and why were you going to spend it to cut a beard?
Cut some fucking dude's beard.
Because it's a Mondo.
Oh my God.
You know what I noticed too on that video clip that you showed, Gabe, of Greg shitting his pants? He's drinking a Mountain Dew in that video footage too.
And smoking a cigarette.
Yeah. So if anybody out there in listener land, we build all these really cool cars, and there's always Mountain Dew and Marlboro Lights in the background. So if Marlboro or Pepsi wants to reach out and sponsor, please do.
Hey, that's why I always had a Monster can in my hand when I was at a show or anything like that. Hoping that, because the Jeep was grey and green, I could make it black if you like, to turn it into a monster. So it's fun.
You're just no Casey Curry.
No,
right. This has been fun, Greg. I appreciate you coming on, and I think we need to do it again.
Anytime at all. Again, since you guys started, I love your podcast. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to listen to. And you talk about some real shit, back and forth. And I really, really dig that. So my door's open anytime. If you guys are ever in Michigan, you always have a place. Anywhere else, if you ever want me on your show, I'm absolutely honored to come. Other than Chris, but Armando and Gabe, right? I mean, and really, like when I first started going to events, so I didn't really start going to events until 14. And Armando was a staple, right? So he was one of those guys that was always talking to the right people. And, and when I started to get into that crowd, right, it was people like Armando and Gabe and, some of the others like Rick Payway and Stuart Bourdine and, some of the really old school ones. And I even own a business with Rick Payway and those guys, right? So I'm one of the owners of Gone Jeepin'. So Gone Jeepin' is, it's Rick Payway, it's Chris Collard, Liam Lafferty. Stu is not an owner, but he's a contributor. And there's a couple others, Mike Harrington, who's been in the industry forever. He was, 4x4 filmmaker. He's the guy that filmed all of the Ultimate Adventures and stuff in the beginning. So it's cool for me to, be in that crowd. These are the guys that I looked up to when I was just reading the magazines, and now I actually own a business with them. Even though we're not profitable, it's still fun. But you guys have always been a staple, and I'm honored to know you, and I'm honored to be invited onto your show. It's pretty staggering that I've gotten to this position in my career where somebody actually wants to listen to me dribble.
Well,
we love
back
you,
at
man.
you, but
it's the same with me. when I was
You're one of the best.
coming from Australia, and plug it in, Ellie. Coming from Australia, I never thought that I would be out with all you guys that I watch on Facebook and YouTube back home in Australia. Now I'm wheeling with these people. I'm having conversations with them.
Yeah, but you're a good dude, and that's why everybody took you in so much. Is you've got a good heart and you're a good dude. Yep.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
I mean, you were doing some stupid throttle thing, which was pretty lame, but other than that,
yeah, that was pretty lame. That motherfucker can go jump and find a creek and just drown in that fucking shit. I'll tell you one thing. I don't hate a lot of people, but when someone messes with my life, better hope to God I never see you again.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
because, and trust me, from what I've been told, I have a few other people in the industry, and I mean high up, like the people that he's very tall and has a wheel company, doesn't have it, but he runs it, kinda. He wants to rip him a new one. If he says, "Dude, I'll get to him before you get to him." And that to me, it's in the bedroom. That to me said a lot for my character. For someone to say that about me meant a whole lot.
No, it does.
Because I just look at myself as just a nobody. I'm nothing special. I'm just a guy, and that's how I've looked at myself coming into the industry. I just see myself as normal. I don't look at myself and go, "Man, that's Greg Henderson over there," or "That's Larry McRae," and it's Jeremy Purick. It's like, I don't know if I can go up and talk to those people, but everyone's humble.
Well,
in the industry for the normal person.
Here's my shop, right? I'm just some peckerwood in northern Michigan who builds shit in a little tiny garage that everybody likes to look at. So,
well, it's crazy too, because of the builds that come out of that shop are insane.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they'd be better if my customers would stop telling me what to do. So,
that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen.
You should own your own business and be your own boss. It'll be the best. Fuck that. Now I got 30 fucking bosses instead of one. Fuck.
It's like I had a guy today at the shop where we're fitting an anti-rock to a Gladiator, and he's sending me all this stuff. Hey, would this work be better? Well, what if you did it this way? Oh, but what about that way? And I'm just like, why did you bring it to us for? If you know how to do it.
Yeah, so I've actually, I've instituted this here, but I do. It's where, I'm backed up because it's me and my son. And I had Captain Redbeard, but Captain Redbeard wanted to learn more and went down to the paint shop, which made me cry. But it's $10,000 non-refundable deposit just to get on my list. And I did that because some high up people in the industry told me I needed to. I raised my rates to something that's actually reasonable. So I charge $185. That's my fabrication rate. And I've got another spot at the bottom of my invoice. It's if you make a change order, right? If we've got it set in stone and we know how we're going to build it, if I want to get creative, it doesn't cost you anything. If you tell me what to do, or if you change anything, it's a $5,000 change. I don't care.
Guess we're not making that change.
Well, and the reason I did that was, honestly, it was because of Quadratech, right? We're 90% through a build, and they're like, "Oh, now it has to have a long arm," and I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" It needs to be done in 2 days, and you want to send people here and put a fucking long arm on it when it was completely designed around one size tire the whole time? So I did. I made a change to my invoicing, and now I couldn't do it to them, but now right at the start of every one, it says it right on the bottom. If you change something mid-run, once we start cutting, if you decide that you want to change the axles or change the fucking suspension or change the motor or whatever the fuck the change is, it's $5,000 every time. And I have a Jeep here that's been here for 4 years, and it's one of the most beautiful Jeeps I've ever built. It's fucking gorgeous. He's changed everything multiple times. Like, we changed axles twice. We changed the engine once. We changed the suspension twice. And every single time he paid the $5,000 without even blinking. So I can't.
Damn, that guy sounds stupid like me.
Well, and he's the Jeep actually.
No, but I bet you his looks like a Jeep. Yours just looks like a frame.
Well, and the Jeep leaves.
I just need to put the tub back on it. Shut up.
Oh, dude, I'll tell you what. The body on that Jeep, we started putting hash marks on the hoist. The body on that Jeep was on and off it 93 times. So, and it's a 1975 Cherokee Chief, and it's actually going to Saudi Arabia. But it is literally one of the most beautiful Jeeps I've ever done. That's
why he makes a change. He's a freaking oil.
Yeah, we
took
the chassis apart because there was rust between some of the seams. So I actually cut out and knocked out all the factory rivets to clean it, and then I handmade new rivets to put it back together. It is the cleanest, most beautiful thing. The only thing I could bitch about is it was very clean to start with. So it still has the original floor. So it had that kind of like rubber floor from 1975. Wow. And in the driver's side, there's a crack about 6 inches long. And I want to change the carpet because everything else on the car is brand fucking new. But it's been done since November, and he's owed me $25,000 since November, and he hasn't picked it up yet. So I'm almost at the point where I'm going to put a mechanics lien on it because it's a $400,000 Jeep, and he owns $25,000. And the hard part is he's in Saudi Arabia, so it's real tricky to mechanics lien something that nobody owns, as far as the U.S. government's controlled.
Yeah. So do you think we'll ever get to see this Jeep?
There's actually a pic. I've got a couple pictures on my Instagram. It's the original green apple paint. So it's green apple with a white top. It's got a 5.7 Hemi, 727 torque plate, Atlas, doubler, Dana 60s front and rear, all handmade suspension. It's got a 48 gallons of fuel. So it's got a factory fuel tank and then another one that runs along the side. And the thing is immaculate. You could eat off of any surface. But yeah, there's some pictures on my Instagram. But it's beautiful. I love it to death. In fact, I did last year, right at the end of last year, I went to an event. It was one of the Fest events. And Jim Morrison, who was the president of Jeep at the time, actually came up and did an interview with it because he said it was the best looking Jeep there. So that was pretty cool.
Sweet.
Nice. Man, I can't even find it on your Instagram. It's a long way down.
Yeah, and I post like once a week, so it can't be that far.
I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to wrap it up here. We could probably go on all.
Dude, anytime.
I mean, just talking.
Anytime at all. Get a hold of me and we'll talk about stuff. Oh, he found it.
How have you?
Absolutely.
No. How do you still have this photo?
Which photo?
On your
What
Instagram.
photo?
I don't think you really want me to show you.
What is it?
I will send it. It's a group photo.
Who's in it?
And it's got some people in it.
Some people that we just talked about earlier?
Because I refuse to censor anything. That is a part of my past, and I'm not going to delete it. Now, I did delete. I went through all of those, and I deleted like his name and shit. But it's part of my past, and I'll never censor a comment. Anybody can get on any of my social media, and they can say whatever they want. I refuse to censor anything. You know, if you got something good to say, say it. If you got something bad to say, I will not delete it. I'm not that guy.
I'm going to talk about the time that I had my hand up your kilt like a puppet.
Sweet. Dude, so, and I know we're wrapping this up, and I know you got to bail, but last year at SEMA, it turned into a joke, but Quake LED, right? Everybody knows who Quake LED is. So one of the engineers from Quake LED told me that he is going to make me a custom underglow cock ring so that I can wear it this year at SEMA. So as I'm walking around under the kilt, it's always lit up.
Oh God!
That
would be.
You could just wear a butt plug like the girls do.
A few people mentioned that, and I refuse to do that. Nope, not happening.
Ask Brittany from Lightbright for hers.
I'm sure that there's one, and I'm sure that there's pictures of it on the internet.
Yeah, just make sure you boil it in hot water first.
Twice, or 3 times.
On that note, we're going to end this here. Once again, Greg, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Had a fun time.
Yeah, thanks.
Anytime. Anytime at all.
Soon. All right, everyone. That's it for tonight. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
We will.
Don't forget Lift It For Less.
Yes, liftitforless.com and
Rub One.
Rub-1.
I got to order some Rub One tomorrow.
Go there now. Yes. Have a good night.
Yes.